All right, guys, we're going to be talking about a very unique Mosin rifle today, but first, we'll spark up this little propane bottle here, see what happens. Whoa, yeah. Oh man, that never gets old no matter what I do. I got a few rounds left here. Let's see if we can't take out a watermelon or two here. Well, I went right through the middle of that one. Punching clean through them. Right under it. Oh yeah. All right. Well guys, we're going to be talking about this Mosin here. It's a pretty unique rifle. This is a 9159, okay? It's a carbine. I know we haven't really done a lot of milsurp reviews here as of late, but this is a very interesting rifle. And I'm going to pose some interesting questions to you guys and also give you a little bit of history about it as we go. They are very obscure rifles in that it's a Cold War era Mosin Nagant. So with the 1891 designation being the original three-line Mosin rifle designation, the 59 being the revision designation. So when you see a 9130, you're talking an 1891 of 1930 in terms of that revision. The 59 revision, from what some people have said, is that this rifle might have been intended for clandestine Cold War warfare. Okay, KGB, behind enemy lines. So that could mean this could be a KGB Mosin, which is very, very interesting. The fact that the complete rifle is almost devoid of markings, of cartouches, other than a few basic proof marks maybe, they're pretty much naked rifles, which means that they're either intended for issue to maybe other countries that they didn't want, Russia's name being attached to, maybe clandestine operations by certain personnel. There are some stories that this particular rifle might have come through Bulgaria. So with the Bulgarians, maybe re-arsenaling several of the M9130s and then cutting them down to M38 length for a war that never came. The Cold War was exactly that, a Cold War. It was a war of an arms race. Everybody was trying to get guns together. They were at each other's throats, wondering when this giant invasion was going to come from both sides. So from the standpoint of this rifle, this truly is a Cold War rifle in the truest sense. Soldiers might have, been issued surplus M44s, M38s, 9130s, but they took the effort to take a 9130 and cut it down to this spec, and it's dated 59, which lands right there within the heyday of the Cold War era. Very, very interesting firearm. It does shoot 7.62 by 54 rimmed, 5-round box. You kind of know the drill there, okay? Just gonna grab a couple of spare rounds out of my pocket and top it off. One of the interesting things about the 9159 that you're gonna see above, say, M44, M38, or any of the other carbines that are out there, is the fact that the fit and finish on these guns is excellent, okay? Excellent bluing, no ugly machining marks, very smooth bolt action, the triggers are nice. Another way that you're gonna be able to tell right out the gate on these is the way that the sight base is machined down. On a standard M38 or on a standard M44, it doesn't even have that sight base on there. It's just a flat shoe going all the way out the front with 100 to 1,000 meters marked on the sight. In this case, we have a standard 9130 sight, but they just took the liberty of milling off 11 to 2,000 meter marking on the sight. So that's one way you can tell. If you pick up one of these carbines and you see that rear sight base machine like that, then that's a 9159 all day long. These guns generally command a bit of a premium if you can find them. Let's shoot it a little bit more. See if we can take out some of our evil watermelons. Well, it's zipping right through them. They're not really coming apart like I want them to. That one did. All right. Well, slamming those watermelons is just not really wanting to do a whole lot in terms of making them come apart. We're going to probably reset the range here, break out a couple of soda bottles, see how good of a number this thing will do on a soda. And then we're probably going to walk up the hill and take a few practical shots from the bench rest with it, just to see how accurate it is. Another way you can tell you got one of these guns is you're generally going to have a hastily cut down M9130 upper handguard, and they usually don't match in terms of the color on the wood. The barrel profiles are thicker because it is a 9130 that's been cut down. So the barrel, it is going to be thicker. It won't work with a standard bayonet. So these are not intended to take a bayonet. We'll talk a little bit more. Let's reset the range and we'll look at this a little closer as we go. All right, we're going to shoot the Mosin a little bit more. We got some watermelons left over as well as some sodas. I've got a couple of hand loads here. This is a 174 grain Sierra Match King on pretty stout charge of varget, okay? I want to quickly mention something about hollow point ammunition from Sierra. You know, they don't recommend that their match bullets be used for hunting because they don't expand reliably. Combat use, the Geneva Convention doesn't allow hollow point ammunition in a theater of combat, although it does get used, okay? But I want to see how different it looks when that watermelon's getting shot with this hollow point Match King as opposed to that ball ammunition we were shooting earlier. Let's give it a try. Didn't really do much ounce. That's all right, that's what I want to see. Look at that, clean hole. It made a little bit more of a mess on the exit side. So it might have expanded a little bit. Let's take out a few of our sodas here. Not bad. Just to the side of it. All right, I got a little bit more ammo in my pocket here. I'm just gonna top her off. Now this gun will accept standard stripper clips as well. I'm just gonna top them off. I'm not gonna run stripper clips today. You know, Mosin is one of those guns that there's just so many variants out there, and that's one of the things that interests me so much about this gun. You know, if you're one of those kind of guys that kind of collects them like I do, it's kind of nice to know all the different variants that are out there. It's interesting the rumors that are out there about this gun and why it kind of came to be. You know, some people say that they were preparing for an invasion that may come and never did. You know, some people say that they prettied them up for commercial export to try to pass them off as a M38, which I seriously doubt that. Some people said they might have just prettied them up just for export, just to sell them. Nah, there's a little bit more of a darker motive behind this gun. It's pretty cool. All right. Oh yeah. Nice. Smoked them. Man, it just blitzes them. Right to the side of them. All right. Well, I'll tell you what, we're going to venture up the hill a little bit. This is just kind of a quick showcase. We'll take a closer look at the gun, shoot it from the top up there, maybe some 300-yard shots, see if the little gun can connect with some range behind it. Let's do it. Well, blowing stuff up at close range is always fun, but we've backed off here to the top of the hill. I do have some theories as to why this gun may be as accurate as it is. It's fairly accurate. I've been doing a few test shots here at longer range just to try it out. It does have a very thick profile barrel because it is a 9130 barrel that's been cut down to M38, M44 specs. I've got a few hand loads here. We're just gonna take a few shots with the gun. It's a 174 grain Match King. I have made some minor adjustments to the sights, not the windage, but of course elevation. I've got the rear sight set to 500 meters, and we're going to take some shots out to a little bit longer range, out to about 3 1/4. If we're connecting well with these gongs, we may back off and try it at about 400 meters away, see how it does. Take a few shots here, just see if we can connect with the little guy. They're not exactly overly pleasant to shoot from the bench, but it's a battle rifle. All right, let's go for the gusto way out there. Well, tell you what, it's not shooting too bad at all, guys. And it's interesting, you know, remember, we're talking about the Cold War. So, you know, 1959, Russia, Bulgaria, you know, there's still a lot of questionable information out there as to where these guns truly came from and what they were actually intended for. There's Eichweg markings all over them, although they appear to be partially scrubbed. Like on the bolt mechanism, there's some very partial Russian markings. You know, whether they were like a re-arsenaled 9130 that just got stuffed away for a rainy day or whatever the case may be, you still can't, you know, shoot this gun without thinking what the intention of the rifle was. You know, it was a stopgap measure. If this gun was specifically configured for military service, it would have been as a stopgap measure. And part of that stopgap would be the fact that you're at war with the capitalist U.S. and whoever else, you know, and you need every man you can get. Every man, woman, and child was needed to be armed if that war were to come for them. And that was, you know, part of the reasoning behind putting together a gun like this is you need everybody armed. And I truly believe that had the Cold War turned into a real war, a real life person-to-person war, you know, the buttons get pushed and the bombs are going in both directions. It was a complete arms race all around the globe because all these superpowers were worried about having all the arms and ammunition that they needed to continue, you know, whatever fighting that they perceived was going to occur. And I guess it's a relatively morbid thing to think that, you know, in 1959, okay, in 59 we had, you know, the Russians would have had PPSHs, they would have had probably SKSs, of course, by then, plenty of M44s, M38s, M9130s, you know, AK-47s, Type 56s, Type 53s in China. So it's not like they didn't have plenty of small arms, but to think that even this measure was deemed as necessary to make sure that every warm body was able to have a gun, pretty important thing. I mean, you're talking 59, I mean, that's the age of the AK-47. So it's not like they didn't have AK-47s laying around. It's just interesting to think that they would have totally, and, you know, went to war with this gun. It's pretty cool to think. I mean, I'm glad that didn't happen, of course, but all right. Take a few more shots, and if we connect with the same boring regularity we just did, we're going to probably try a little bit longer range here. And you know, a lot of the carbines, guys, M44s, they were used in the Korean War. And remember, in 59, wasn't terribly long after the Korean War. So I guess they were still in that mindset. Like I might have shot just under it. Yep. Pretty accurate gun, guys. I'll tell you what, we're going to punch up the top of the hill and then we're going to close this little thing out. I mainly just really wanted to showcase this gun a little bit. I know we haven't done a lot of milsurp stuff in a while. I have never really shot this gun for any kind of groups or anything. You know, I've just kind of tagged along with it with practical accuracy. Granted, these are 174 grain Match Kings, so they are good hand loads. With military ammunition, not exactly sure what this gun would do, but with the hand loads, definitely nice and consistent there. Smooth bolt overall. I mean, it's just a, you know, pretty cool little milsurp. They're not very common. There's not a ton of these out there. I don't know how many were produced total, but just an interesting footnote in military history. Just for fun, let's pop up to the top of the hill, see if we can hit that same gong from about 450 yards away. Let's do it. All right, this might be somewhat of a futile effort, but we're gonna try. And in the Korean War, it definitely wasn't uncommon for the soldiers in the Korean War to shoot these things from long distance in the form of suppressive fire. And really, that's where the Mosin excelled in warfare. Even in World War II, if you had a line of guys and you had enough warm bodies with Mosins, well, guess what? You can lay a lot of lead down range, and if you're accurate enough with shooting them, you can make that ranged fire very accurate and land it in so you can get your troops in close. But pretty interesting. We're gonna try a little shot here. And I think I know where to aim. I'm gonna just give it a try and see if I can lob one of these Match Kings into that plate down there. It's a long dang way for these crude sights. We're gonna try. There it is. Accurate gun, guys. Good trigger too. One thing I didn't mention is this trigger is much better than a standard Mosin. Right under it. But if that was a GI, his head would be down, that's for sure. Same spot. Yeah, I can see him. Let me try cheating a little bit higher. Right edge. Yep. Long way for this gun. We're just gonna try a few more shots here. I just wanted to see if I could do it. Right under it. All right, I'll tell you what. Let me, I'm gonna cheat this sight up. Another 50-yard increment. All right, so we're at, all right, 50 more yards. Because I want to go for a bullseye hold. That's kind of what I'm going for. Let's see. All right, 5 more. Same spot? Well,
Give it kind of a top third hole. Elevation's good, you just get on the right side.
okay. Well, maybe it's not meant to be today, guys. Well, I brought my hole back over, thinking that, let me just split the difference here. All right. All right, I got 3 left in here. I'm not gonna bore you guys with 5 more shots. Let's just see if we can get 5 in a row, maybe if I'm lucky. Kinda know where I'm hitting now. Let's see. Oh, just under it. Tell you what, you still wouldn't want to be down there. That's for dang sure. Oh yeah. Oh, that is such a satisfying sound, just hearing that 30 cal round smack that plate from this far away. Just nothing beats that sound. Just under it. I'll tell you what though, you know, when you look at all the different surplus rifles that are out there, I've shot a lot of M38s, I've shot a lot of M44s, shot a lot of 9130s, the Finnish M39, which is kind of its own animal in its own right. But I tell you, this is probably the most accurate short Mosin that I've ever fired. I think a lot of that is attributed to the heavy barrel, since it is a cut down 9130. Another thing that I'll give you guys some advice on, at least from my perspective, when you're going to do any kind of serious long range work with Mosins, the best thing to do is grab yourself a good quality screwdriver, you know, actual gunsmithing screwdriver that's properly fitted to these screw heads, and just make sure you tighten down these screws really good. Because a lot of folks email me and they ask me about inaccuracy in Mosins, especially short guns. And that brutal recoil and all that movement and the vibrations, I'm telling you, it'll just work those screws loose in a heartbeat. So you got to make sure you keep those screws nice and tight. And these things will generally shoot pretty good. You know, the bore on this one's in pretty good shape, good trigger. If you ever find yourself milling around at a pawn shop or a secondhand shop or at a gun show or whatever, and you have a chance to pick you up a 9159, pretty good shooter. I wouldn't call it a sniper rifle by any means, but I think the intended purpose of this gun, from my perspective, being a former military guy and everything, and just kind of knowing a little bit of the history of the Cold War, and then knowing, you know, what these types of guns were intended for, I would say that the KGB clandestine operations type argument might be a little far-fetched. I know I've seen that on some forums and a few books here and there where people have mentioned that. I would say the stopgap measure for a potential war would be a better explanation for why this particular rifle was developed. And for that stopgap measure, it would definitely excel. I mean, if you were a soldier and, okay, yeah, you'd probably rather have an AK-47, you'd rather have a PPSH, you'd rather have some other modern rifle. But if somebody handed you this, you definitely wouldn't be unarmed. I mean, that's a long way to be able to defend yourself with iron sights and a small carbine. You could certainly defend yourself with this gun in a war situation. So pretty interesting footnote in military history. I wanted to share it with you guys. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Maybe you learned something. Maybe you had some fun with me today. I appreciate it. We have much more military surplus stuff on the way, more gun reviews, much more. So be sure you subscribe, check us out. Always, if our videos don't show up in your feed, always check back to the site on a regular basis, because for some reason YouTube hasn't really been sending out their subscription updates like they should. So some of you haven't been getting your subscription updates. Make sure you're checking back, because we post videos about every 2 or 3 days. So guys, thanks again. Hope you enjoyed. Catch you next time.